Kunja Bihari Jaya. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya. Vishabhad Bharamahas Bhavarajikacharya, Philosophy with AC, Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Amacharya Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Sakaho, Sri Gasha Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhar, Swasti Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai, Sri Radha Krishna, Gopagopita, Kama Kunda Radha Kunda, Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Sri Vrindavan Jai, Navadatan Ki Jai, Ganga Jamuna, Bhakti Devi, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrindi Ki Jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrindi Ki Jai, Go Premanandi, all glories to Samadhavati, all glories to Samadhavati. All glories to Samadhavati, all glories to Sri Guru and Sri Guranga, all glories to Sri Prabhupada. When Prabhupada said his disciples would become happy by serving Krishna, he spoke from his own deep realization of that ecstasy. When he installed a deity in one of the temples, his ecstasy was greater than that of any of his disciples. At the Rath Yatra festivals in Golden Gate Park, or in any public preaching function, it was the most enlivened. He, more than any of his disciples, wanted the public to come and chant and dance in the temple to see the deity of Krishna, and when they did, he was the most pleased. And if a disciple fell away, Prabhupada was the most displeased. Nor was Prabhupada aloof from the details of temple management, the cost of things, how the devotees were being received in public, how each disciple was advancing. Although his disciples saw him as the most exalted Vaishnava in the intimate association of Krishna, they knew he was always available to guide them in their services. He was their leader, but he was with them. He was far above them, but he remained close to them. Only rarely did he leave them behind, as at the Los Angeles deity installation, when he began to cry, speaking directly to Krishna. Krishna, I am most rotten and fallen, but I have brought this thing for you. Please take it. Except for such rare moments, Prabhupada's disciples saw him preaching and serving along with them. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharane Shashandivari Pashtakadesha Tarane Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhar, Shiva Sarvata. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 4, verse 7. Brahmanyonya kuto nabe vipra mangala pujita yasa bhakishi yagyesham darshayam asurujasa.
ब्राह्मण्यवान्यकुतो नावे विप्रमङ्गलपूजितः यस्य बर्हिषि अग्नेशां दर्शयामासु रोजसा ब्रह्मण्योऽन्यः कुतो नाभे विप्रमङ्गलपूजितः यस्य बर्हिषि अग्नेशां दर्शयामासु रोजसा
Brahmanya, a devotee of the Brahmanas. Anya, any other. Kuta, where is. Nabe, besides Maharaj Nabi. Vipra, Brahmanas. Mangala Pujita, well worshipped and satisfied. Yasya, of whom. Pahishi, in the sacrificial arena. A Yagya Isham, Supreme Personality of Godhead, the enjoyer of all sacrificial ceremonies. Darshayam Asu, showed Ojasa by their Brahminical prowess. Translation. This is the second prayer. Who is a better worshipper of Brahmanas than Maharaj Nabi, because he worshipped the qualified Brahmanas to their full satisfaction? The Brahmanas, by their Brahminical prowess, showed Maharaj Nabi, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayana, in person. Therefore, the Brahmanas engaged as priests in the sacrificial ceremony were not ordinary Brahmanas. They were so powerful that they could bring forth the Supreme Personality of Godhead by their prayers. Thus, Maharaj Nabi was able to see the Lord face to face. Unless one is a Vaishnava, he cannot call forth the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Lord does not accept an invitation unless one is a Vaishnava. Therefore, as said in Padma Purana, Shat Karma Nipano Vipro Mantra Tantra Visharada. A Vaishnava Guru Nasyat Vaishnava Swapacho Guru. A scholarly Brahmin, expert in all subject matters of Vedic knowledge, is unfit to become a spiritual master without being a Vaishnava. But a person born in a family of a low caste can become a spiritual master if he is a Vaishnava. These Brahmanas were certainly very expert in chanting the Vedic mantra. They were competent in the performance of the Vedic rituals, and over and above that, they were Vaishnavas. Therefore, by their spiritual powers, they could call on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, enable their disciple Maharaj Nabi to see the Lord face to face. Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur comments that the word Ojasa means by dint of devotional service. So there were two verses of praise by the sages, and these are verses praising Nabi for his position as a king and for his position as a devotee. So this verse particularly talks about how, because of his position, the Brahmanas enabled Nabi to directly see the Lord. And of course, the reason why is he was Brahmanya. And so, of course, Brahmana means a Brahmana, one who knows about Brahman, knows the Vedas, which speak about Brahman. And Brahmanya means a person who worships and respects the Brahmanas. Of course, Krishna is famous as Brahmanya. We have our prayer, Brahmana Hitaya. So that means he benefits the Brahmanas. That's Krishna. And throughout the Bhagavatam, we will see that the respect for the Brahmana is praised. And it's so praiseworthy that the Supreme Lord himself does this. And he always respects the Brahmanas. Of course, the opposite is disrespect for the Brahmanas. So particularly for the king, this is a great duty. The king is situated in Sattva Rajagun mixture. He's the leader of the society, but Brahmanas are superior to him. So he always respects the Brahmanas because they have spiritual knowledge. Now, the Vedas are vast, and the Brahmanas know the Vedas, but they may have different understanding. So some may be dedicated to Karmakanda section, others will be dedicated to Jnanakanda section. So, consequently, not all Brahmanas are going to be dedicated Vaishnavas. We have all sorts of Brahmanas. But as the purport mentions here, if you are a Brahmana, but you're not a Vaishnava, you're not a guru. And if you're not a Brahmana, but you're a Vaishnava and accept the Supreme Lord, then you're qualified as a guru. So that means that the Brahmana is exalted. The Brahmana who's a Vaishnava is more exalted. Simultaneously, one who's not a Brahmana, but is a Vaishnava, is more exalted than the Brahmana who doesn't know and doesn't respect the Supreme Lord. So, in other words, the Vaishnava is above the Brahmana, technically speaking, in terms of respect and whatever. And the reason for this is that the Vaishnava knows the conclusion of the Vedas. The Vedas teach everything. So they teach Karmakanda, worship of Devatas, etc. But they also, and they, of course, teach worship of Shiva and Durga and everyone. But they also teach worship of Vishnu. But it's not all equal. So a person who understands that the worship of Vishnu is superior to worship of others, then that is the person who knows the essence of the Vedas. So he is called Vaishnava. So the word Vaishnava comes from the word Vishnu. The Vaishnava is one who worships Vishnu. So these persons are considered superior. Of course, we should also understand that simply because you worship Vishnu, that also does not make you a Vaishnava technically, because there are some people who worship Vishnu, but they have a different conception. So they worship Vishnu as their family deity. But their conception is, yes, Vishnu is my family deity, but there are other deities also like Shiva and Durga and Ganesh and everybody, and they're all equal. They're all God. This is misconception. So therefore, they're not real Vaishnavas. So they are Vaishnava by tradition of family, maybe. But as far as Vaishnava by knowledge and tattva, knowing the truth of the Vedas, no. So the truth of the Vedas is that Devatas are on one level, Vishnu is higher. He is the highest. So if we don't have that clear understanding, even if you worship Vishnu, you're not a real Vaishnava. When we talk about the Vaishnava higher than the Brahmana, we're talking about the Vaishnava who understands the position of Vishnu, actually, which is the conclusion of the scriptures. So that person who is the Vaishnava ultimately gets the most respect. In normal society, however, we find in Varnashram system, we will find Sudras, Vaishyas, Kshatriyas, and Brahmanas. Where is the Vaishnava class? So Vaishnava is not included there for a good reason. These divisions are there for occupation and according to gunas. So we have three gunas, sattva, rajas, and tamas. And according to your qualification by guna, you have a certain occupation. So if you are in tamagun, and that means sudra, your main occupation is labor. So you can be a potter or a basket weaver or whatever, a laborer in the fields or whatever, construction worker or whatever. And if you're a rajagun or rajagun tamagun mixture, then you're vaishya. So then you're qualified for mercantile business and things like this, businesses basically, and farming. If you're in Rajagun with some sattva, you're qualified as Kshatriya. So that means you're part of the government and part of the military. So these are the people that control the Vaishyas and the Sudras. Why? Because if they are the ones that institute the laws. Somebody has to institute laws. So therefore, it's the Kshatriya that does that. But where do the laws come from? They come from the Vedas. And the source of the Vedas is the Brahmanas. They're the ones that know the Vedas, so they can teach the Kshatriya how to institute the Vedas properly. But they are in sattva. And they all have their occupation. They earn their living by these labor, by mercantile activities or farming, by managing, or the Brahmana, he gets the support of the king. He gives donations. Everybody gives donation to the Brahmana. So this is how they people get their support as long as they're in the gunas. The Vaishnava is not in sattva, raja, or tamas. And therefore, he's not designated with a certain occupation. He is beyond that. Why? Because Vishnu himself is beyond the gunas, and bhakti is beyond the gunas, and the devotee is beyond the gunas because he's doing bhakti. So therefore, he doesn't belong to the gunas. So that is why in this verse quoted from Padma Purana, it says, the one who's the spapacha, or the dog eater, or whatever, low caste, not even a caste, he's outside the caste system, the dog eater. If he is a Vaishnava, then he is the guru. He can teach everybody else. So he surpasses sattva by being Vaishnava. And so that's the special position of the Vaishnava. And it doesn't matter what occupation he has. He could be a Vaishya, Kshatriya, a Sudra, a Brahmana, Svapacha, Malacha, Yavana, or whatever. If he is Vaishnava, then he's superior to the others. It doesn't matter what his occupation is anymore. No. So such verses are there, but not clearly understood by many people who follow the Vedas. But anyway, these verses are there. So we have the Vaishnava at the top. Related to this is also the concept of Purushartha. So, of course, Purushartha means the goal for human being. So what are the goals? So the common goals which are propagated through Dharma, Varnashram, etc., for the people in the Varnas, is Artha, Dharma, Kama, and Moksha. So those are the goals, but they concentrate on Artha, Kama, and Dharma. Those are the main concentration. They understand ultimately we should get liberated, but they don't worry about that too much. And only the Brahmanas will worry about that. Some of the Brahmanas will worry about moksha. So that is these varnas and ashramas. These are the goals, Artha, Dharma, Kama, and ultimately moksha for a few in the Brahmins. But though the Brahmana is not only got a profession because he's in sattva, he strives for liberation. So that, of course, is superior. That's another reason why he gets the respect, because he's going for the highest goal in the varnashram system. So generally, moksha requires jnana. And jnana requires knowledge of the Vedas, particularly Brahma Sutras and Upanishads. And who's qualified for the Vedas? The Brahmanas. But generally, it's the Brahmanas who will go for moksha. So that system of Purusharthas is there for the Varna ashram system, but it doesn't include the Vaishnava. It's not there. So what is the goal of the Vaishnava? None of those. It is prema. Very distinct. So the Varnashram system has 4 goals. The Vaishnava is not in that system. He's beyond it. His goal is prema, which is also beyond liberation, beyond moksha. So Lord Chaitanya says this is the 5th goal for humanity. This is the real Purushartha, the highest one. That is prema. So prema is achieved by the Vaishnava. It's talking here in this verse about Nabi got the blessing to see the Supreme Lord directly. So this is available only to the Vaishnava, not available to those in the Varnashram system practicing Karma Yoga, Dharma, Varnashram, Jnana, or Yoga. They can not qualified to see the Lord. Only the devotee gets that position. So through the process of bhakti, we get prema, and then when we have prema, then we're qualified to see the Lord. So this is the final goal. So it is not achieved through Varnashram with its Purusharthas. It is achieved by the Vaishnava, who's beyond the Varnas and the Ashramas, whose goal is prema. It is also beyond the Purusharthas. So the Brahmana is, of course, glorified, but the Vaishnava is more glorified. If the Brahmana is a Vaishnava, very good. But that doesn't make him a better Vaishnava than a Swapacha, who's a Vaishnava. Of course, according to Varnashram, we would say yes, because he's Brahmana, yes. But according to Bhakti, no. We're concerned more about the Bhakti than the ashram Varna or no ashram at all, no Varna at all. So that's why it says the Vaishnava who was a dog eater, he's the guru, not the Brahmana who's not a guru. So there's a disregard there for Varna and ashram status. Though that is so, traditionally, even among Vaishnavas, we will see, and even in Hari Bhaktivinoda is mentioned, that if you have a choice of gurus, a Swapacha guru or a Brahmana guru, you choose the Brahmana guru. Why? Technically, you follow this, it doesn't make too much sense. That is only for, we can say, Jana Sangraha, teaching the people to respect Varnas, that's all. And it's also mentioned by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, I think, in his work, that if there's a choice, okay, you take just to follow respect, you take the Brahmana guru. But that doesn't mean that he is actually superior because of that. So ultimately, the Vaishnava is independent of all of these varnas and ashramas, etc. So that is the understanding of the devotees. So, as I said, the devotee is in that position. It's not a prejudice or anything like that. Just because you're a Vaishnava, you're saying this, like superior, whatever. Here we have verses like this. But it's because of the nature of bhakti itself. And as I said previously, the bhakti does not belong to the material world. It is nirguna. It is coming from Supreme Lord Himself. And we see that in nectar devotion, you get bhava and you realize the Lord. How do you realize the Lord in bhava stage? Because you're endowed with the samvit and hladini shaktis of the Lord. This is the internal energy, antaranga shakti of Krishna. The gunas, sattva, rajas, tamas, which is basis of varnashram, where do they emanate from? Prakriti, maya shakti, external energy of the Lord. And karma yoga and jnana yoga and astanga yoga also come out of the gunas. Bhakti comes out of the Sarup Shakti. It's quite different. Two different energies, Maya Shakti, Sarup Shakti of the Lord. So the Sarup Shakti of the Lord manifests the whole spiritual world. It manifests the Lord's form, qualities, activities, manifests Bhakti, manifests the name of Krishna. And Bhakti itself is part of that internal energy that is Hladini Samvit Shaktis. And if you have those Shaktis in Bhakti, you see the Lord and you experience the Lord. And that is bhava. So, of course, before that, we don't have a full manifestation of Samvit Hladini, therefore we don't see the Lord. But still, that's the essence of bhakti. So we can say it's like the holy name is not different from Krishna. And you realize that if you get bhava and prema. But before that, you're chanting the name. It's still the name. It's still perfect. It's not contaminated, but we don't get the same effect. We don't realize it. Why? We're covered over. We have anarthas. We have subtle body. We have mind, intelligence, false ego, etc. So the manifestation of the Hladini and Samvit Shaktis does not manifest nicely in our state of sadhana. You get to bhava, then coverings are gone, then manifests. Hladini Samvit Shakti manifests nicely. So these are internal energy of the Lord, spiritual. So where do they reside? They cannot reside in your mind, which is material, or your intelligence, or your false ego. And these are all coverings. The Samvit Hladini Shakti, they attach themselves to the jiva, because the jiva is spiritual. So, the jiva is also a Shakti of the Lord. Tasta Shakti, another Shakti, conscious Shakti. But through the process of bhakti, we manifest the internal energy of the Lord, the Chit Shakti, Hladini and Samvit. And these become part of the jiva. So this jiva is very special, different from people in the material world, even the Brahmana. So bhakti, very special, coming from the spiritual world. And the devotee develops that bhakti, the jiva becomes filled with that bhakti. It becomes the Sarup Shakti of the Lord, Chit Shakti of the Lord, as Hladini Samvit. And then that jiva is qualified to see the Supreme Lord, which is exactly what happens here. Through the Brahmanas, Maharaj Nabi was able to see the Lord. How can he see the Lord if he's a materialist? How can I say if he's a Brahmana without bhakti? He cannot. Even if he's a Jnani, he cannot see the Lord. So he must have the Adini Samvit Shakti. How does he get that? Because of bhakti. So Maharaj Nabi then was also a great devotee. But how did he do it? He did it through the mercy of the Brahmanas. But how can the Brahmanas give him mercy to see the Lord and give him the bhakti, etc., unless they're bhaktas also? So they have to be Vaishnava Brahmanas who give him the mercy so that he gets the Sarup Shakti of the Lord so he can see the Lord. So in other words, bhakti, the mercy of the Brahmanas with their bhakti produces bhakti in Maharaj Nabi, by which he's qualified to see the Lord. So, which means ultimately prema. So, bhakti very special beyond material world, beyond the gunas, beyond all the other processes. And that's why, therefore, we have verses like this one from the Padma Purana, that Swapacha, if he's a Vaishnava, is greater than the Brahmana, even whatever. So, this is the position of the Bhagavatam and other bhakti scriptures. But we should understand that very, very clearly. Any question there?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you very much for the wonderful class. Maharaj, how can we come to the level of a Vaishnava? How can we come to the level of a Vaishnava? How can I come to a level of being a Vaishnava?
Okay, so to be a Vaishnava, you require the mercy of the Vaishnava, just as Maharaj Navi got the mercy of the Brahmana Vaishnavas. But you don't have to get the mercy of a Brahmana Vaishnava. It could be any Vaishnava. As was said here, the dog eater who's a Vaishnava is a guru, so he can give you mercy. So bhakti begins by planting the seed, bhakti, and then it grows. So who plants the seed? It's the mercy of Krishna and Guru. So obviously we need the mercy of Krishna, but usually the Lord acts through his devotees in this world. He doesn't just manifest his mercy like that. He kind of acts through devotees. And this is, you say, a glorification of the devotee. Just as in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, well, I can kill all these soldiers or whatever, battlefield of Kurukshetra. I don't need anybody to do it. But to Arjuna, he says, you are my instrument. I'm acting through you, and you become my instrument, and you get glorified. I'm empowering you to do the work. So the Lord likes to empower the devotees to do the work for him. And in this way, the devotees get glorification also, being great servants of the Lord. So the Lord usually acts through the devotees. So the mercy comes through devotees. We say guru, but this is not just your Diksha guru or whatever. This is guru as the teacher, one who through his teachings gives you mercy. So giving teachings is mercy also. So we get the knowledge by which we can advance in devotional service. And of course, the Diksha Guru gives you a mantra by which you can advance in devotional service. We get the process of bhakti by which we can advance in devotional service. All this comes through devotees. So that's the mercy of devotees. So anyone who is practicing pure bhakti can give out that mercy. If it's impure bhakti, he'll give you impure bhakti, so you won't get prema. You'll get some sort of other plant coming out, other seed, other plant. So the one who understands pure bhakti, he can give pure bhakti. But then, of course, we have levels of people. We have the neophyte, the person beginning bhakti, even as pure bhakti, he's beginning. And then we have one who's a little more advanced and going through an Artanavritti, and we have one at Nishcha, Ruchi, Asakti, etc. So all of these devotees have some capacity. But as you get higher and higher in terms of bhakti, stages, Nishcha, Ruchi, Asakti, Bhava, Prema, obviously the bhakti is more prominent, obvious, the coverings are less. So therefore there is more Shakti the bhakti shakti available through the more advanced devotee. So that's why I said, okay, best if you get an Uttamadikari prema bhakti like that. But the problem with that is that the Uttamadikari is very rare, and the Uttamadikari often doesn't even preach. So he's not publicizing himself anywhere in the world. So you don't know about him. He could be hiding in somewhere in Vrindavan and you'll never know about him. So because he's absorbed in Krishna so much. So what to do? Then we take a person a little lower, person on Bhava stage. But even a person Bhava stage is like that person. He may be also Uttamadikari and he's also absorbed in Krishna, not much interested like that. Also very rare. So then who's going to give mercy to the people? And answer is the Madhyama. So the Madhyama does not have this vision of everything is Krishna, whatever. He makes distinctions between devotee, non-devotee, demon, whatever, Krishna. Yes, makes distinctions. And he is the one that carries out the preaching work on behalf of the Lord. So he is the one that gives out the mercy mainly. And through that mercy, one becomes a Vaishnava. So even those Madhyamas can be of various levels. And of course, again, higher level the better, but maybe the higher one is rarer and the somewhat lower is more common, etc. Nevertheless, all these devotees to some extent give out some sort of mercy of the Lord. And therefore, they all get respect. So it is through these Vaishnavas who practice pure bhakti, generally those who are called the Madhyamas, that we get the mercy so that we can advance in devotional service. So that's how we get the mercy. We accept the proper instructions. So often we talk about mercy, but then mercy also means getting knowledge. So it means getting an understanding of the scriptures through devotees. Get that? That is a type of mercy. At the same time, we understand that knowledge of scriptures, etc., is good, but that also requires you to be a Vaishnava. You have to have some realization, some faith and whatever in the Lord. So the combination of the bhakti along with that knowledge, if a person has that combination, he can give out that knowledge. And that's why we say that scriptures like Bhagavatam is pure. They don't like the Lord and like the name, etc. It's all pure. But if it comes from the mouth of an Avaishnava, it becomes poison. Same scripture coming out of the wrong mouth becomes poison. Comes out of devotee, it becomes nectar. Comes out of a more advanced devotee, more nectar. Comes out of an Uttamadikari, most nectar. So it has to come out of the mouth of a Vaishnava, and according to his advancement, then we get the different amounts of mercy available, more Shakti available.
When you were talking about bhakti, about the four different areas. Yeah. And in the past, when I've heard people talking about bhakti, people have talked about dovetailing bhakti with my duty.
Okay, yeah.
And being the way to serve. I'm trying to work out how those two concepts that you're talking about that, how they fit together.
So it's a good question. We always have to. We can't just think of bhakti in isolation from everything. So often, because especially in India, they were practicing varnashram at one time, and then become devotees. So what do? We practice bhakti. We give up all that system. Very difficult for most people. Just as now people are practicing when they're working and doing so many things. So what are they supposed to do? Not everybody can renounce everything. So the nature of bhakti is you don't have to renounce everything and you can still get perfection. So you can work and do whatever and have your job, and you do the bhakti. And according to the sincerity and intensity of the bhakti, you advance in spite of all of your material duties, etc. So that's one of the qualities of bhakti that make it more practical for people. So in India, most of the people were following this varnashram system to some degree. So we have brahmanas who become devotees, or kshatriyas, or sudras who become devotees. So what do? They don't give up their activities because they do have family and they're not so detached. So they continue their duties as brahmana, kshatriya, vaishya, and sudra, follow all those rules, largely, except where they're contrary to bhakti. And at the same time, they're also worshiping the Supreme Lord with great devotion and doing all the activities of bhakti. So they combine the systems as long as this varnashram does not interfere with the bhakti in some way and dilute it or pollute it by bringing in material goals, etc. So they can do it as long as they don't pollute it. So this is commonly done. If one is not in that system, not born in that system, as we are the dog eater here, or the person's born in foreign countries, they don't belong to that system at all, that does not disqualify them. So they still do bhakti. And they're not following this varnashram system, but they continue to do their bhakti. And they just follow rules which are favorable for bhakti, which ultimately is like four regulator principles. So we don't follow the varnashram system, but we don't eat any meat, don't gamble, etc. Okay. And we follow bhakti process, fine. Even if we're not acting as a brahman or a kshatriya or vaishya because we don't know about it and we're not familiar with those rules, so we can become successful. So either way, we can. Some people in the varnashram system, they may renounce it also. And that's what happened to Rishabhadev. He was the king, etc., ruling. Then he renounced everything, gave up completely, and just practiced bhakti. So you can do it either way, with combine the system or without it also, and you can still get perfection.
Maharaj, there's some questions online. Given that Vaishnava is superior to Varnashram, why is it said that Srila Prabhupada desired to establish Varnashram?
Yeah.
Why not just progress through to the stages in Bhakti, Shraddha, Sadhu Sangha, Bhajana Kriya, etc.?
Yeah. So, good question also. So technically, yes, we concentrate on bhakti and go through the different levels. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains that in that we do have to support our body and we may have a family. We should follow some rules. What rules to follow? So, convenient to follow the Varnashram rules as much as we can. So in this way, those rules act as an assistant to our bhakti. So we can call them secondary rules of bhakti. For instance, we are devotees practicing, chanting, hearing, worshiping the Lord. But because we have a body, we have to keep it clean. So we have to bathe. So how do we bathe? So then Varnashram has rules for how to bathe. Bathe in pure water. And if you want, you chant mantras and whatever like this. Bathe once a day, twice a day, 3 times a day, whatever different rules for bathing, etc. So we follow the rules, and at least every day when you get up, you have to take a bath at least once. So rules are there for bathing. So we just incorporate for the body rules from Varnashram system for that. Some of the things are a little too complicated, like the particular water you cannot bathe in. This water, tap water, no good. This water, no good. That water, no good. It gets very difficult, so we kind of ignore some of the rules. You have to go to a river or a pond to bathe, otherwise you're impure. So this is difficult for us, especially in modern world. So we ignore some rules, but at least we carry out the principle of bathing every day. So we take like a rule like that. So there's physical rules, of course, dietary rules again. So in the system, of course, Sudras can eat meat, Vaishyas can eat meat, etc. Brahmanas generally should not eat meat. So then we follow the Brahminical standard, but because we want to have purity of mind, so we don't take meat, whatever like that. Dietary habits are there for the body. Then we have social things, a family. How do we operate in the family? So therefore, there's rules for conduct of the husband, the wife, the children, etc. All of the rules of varnashram as much as possible there also. And do the samskars. So samskars are basically purificatory rites for children, so to speak. Garbhadan samskar, and then jat karma and samantana, all these different things, namkarana, anaprashana, etc. Education, upanayana, all actually involved in how to raise your children. And so we want to do that. We can do it by sanctifying it with Vedic mantra. So therefore we have samskars. So we can adopt the samskars also from varnashram system as a Vaishnava also, as long as we don't worship devatas and have material goals in the samskars. So to some extent, we accept those rules of varnashram because we do have a body and we live in society, etc. So to that extent, we can follow. But then, of course, we come to things which we don't want to follow also. So we don't want to distinguish people by birth into varnas, like you're a brahmana by birth and whatever like this. We don't want to distinguish varnas which will obstruct the Vaishnava aspect. So we don't want to call someone as a brahmana Vaishnava and a Sudra Vaishnava, and then the brahmana Vaishnava is superior to the Sudra Vaishnava. That's offensive. So we can't do that also. So if we want to accept the varnas, the only way we can accept it is you do your occupation according to your qualification. If you can't do too much and whatever, and you're strong enough, then you do a Sudra occupation, labor. If you'd like to make money, then you become a Vaishya. Do that. And at the same time, be a Vaishnava. If you like studying, then you become a Brahminical person. And you teach whatever. And then you also be a Vaishnava. In that sense, we operate with varnas in one sense, but not very strictly controlling that. So other than that, other aspects may be very difficult to incorporate without being contrary to the Vaishnava philosophy.
Being a Krishna devotee, can we do Shiva Puja because it's a family tradition?
Oh. Yeah, so the devatas are devotees, so they have to be respected. And even in nectar devotion, one of the angas of bhakti is don't disrespect the devatas, so we don't deliberately insult them or anything. And we can worship them just as we worship devotees. But the procedure is that you offer them the prasadam from Supreme Lord, not that you do independent worship. And when you worship, we're worshiping them not because they're independent of the Lord and they give independent benedictions, only as servant of the Lord. That's if we worship them with that, fine. We can do the worship of Shiva, Ganesh, or anybody. Okay. Okay. Hare Krishna.
His Holiness Bhanu Swami I SB.